If we pull this off, we'd have way more than enough money to party with any girl in here.
Nigga said, look at all these hoes. We could have any of them if we got his money. And they said, yes, yes, absolutely. You're right, Danny. And I'm back with another video on the channel, man. But tonight, wherever you at, dog, I got America's Dumbest Serial Killers by that guy, Don Tavius. All right? Now, we all know serial killers, some of them have high IQs. Some of them have low IQs, you know what I'm saying? But today, we're about to learn about the dumbest, I'm assuming probably the dumbest ways that they've gotten caught. If I'd had to, you know, guess and choose one. But we about to see, man. If you ready, I'm ready. Lock in, get your snack, get your whatever you got to get, man. Let's do it. We in Miami.
Mark Schiller embodied the American dream. He came from Colombia with nothing, and through a lot of hard work and dedication, became a multi-millionaire. But if he knew what was in store for him on this day, his ass would have probably stayed in Colombia. For the past few months, Schiller has been stalked by a group of bodybuilding ninjas.
What the fuck?
And they want his money. At around 4 p.m., the ninjas would kidnap
ninjas.
Schiller from outside his business and spend the next 30 days beating, torturing, and humiliating him.
What the
To
fuck?
make the pain stop, Schiller agreed to give the psychopaths everything he owned. And how did they thank him? By setting him on fire and running him over with a car twice.
What the hell?
Miraculously, he survived. But unfortunately for the gang's next 2 victims, they wouldn't be so lucky. If this sounds familiar, it's because the movie Pain and Gain was based on these events, but the real life story is much more insane.
See, now this how you get a nigga to lock in.
This is the story of the Sun Gym Gang.
Sun Gym
Gang. It's kind of a hard one to say. At its core, this is a tale of greed and envy. And what better place to set our story than Miami? A breeding ground for all sorts of degenerates, grifters, and lowlifes.
Bitch
It's
asses.
only in a city like Miami that a place
Fuck all
like
them
Sun Gym
niggas.
could exist. Now, this was no regular
locked
gym.
in,
It was
chat.
a
I'm locked
seedy
in.
place whose clientele mostly consisted of crooked cops, roid junkies, and felons, with a lot of overlap. According to one Miami police officer, I could meet my monthly quota of felony arrests in one night at Sun Gym. And the only people more psychotic than the gym's patrons were its employees.
I don't know if I believe that. It's that many niggas there committing crime. Why don't y'all just sit around the corner or some shit? Or just stake it. Stake it out.
Which
Y'all
brings
can
me
do that?
to the first member of our criminal enterprise, Danny Lugo, Sun Gym's general manager, personal trainer, and the leader of its namesake gang. In Pain and Gain, Danny Lugo was portrayed by Mark Wahlberg as this sort of like goofy guy with a lot of big ideas. In reality, though, the guy was a unhinged psychopath.
Okay.
But he wasn't always like that. Danny grew up in the Bronx, sharing a small apartment with his parents and 3 siblings.
BX.
But from an early age, the kid showed a lot of potential. He was an honors student, star football player, and even an altar boy at church. After high school, he got a full-ride scholarship to Fordham University. Now, it's extremely ironic because going to college was supposed to allow Danny to escape from a life of poverty and crime, but instead, it kicked off his criminal life. You see, most of his classmates were rich trust fund brats who drove sports cars, wore Rolexes, and partied on yachts. Meanwhile, Lugo rode the bus to campus from his shitty rat-infested apartment. This made Lugo insanely jealous. In his head, he was this, like, super genius Ubermensch. So why wasn't he living the extravagant lifestyle like the rest of these schmucks? So in his senior year, Danny decided that he would get rich, no matter what. Even if that meant he had to lie, cheat, steal, even kill. So in his senior year, he dropped out of college and became a full-time con man. Lugo's first grift was pretending to be a wealthy financier. He sought out small business owners who needed a loan, which he would offer them in exchange for a 10% down payment. Except they never got the loan, and he pocketed the money. He made over $300,000 running this scheme. But the guy wasn't good at covering his tracks, so it didn't take the FBI long to bust his ass. During his trial, Lugo gave this humble statement. "It will never happen again, for I have learned not to use my intelligence for wrong actions.
Intelligence.
He would spend the next 2 years in federal prison. When Lugo got out, one of the conditions of his parole was that he needed to get a job. But
Right.
no establishment wanted to hire a convicted felon.
Of course. Of
Except
course.
for one. Lugo convinced Sun Gym's owner, John Meese, that he would double their membership in 6 months. Now, Sun Gym was struggling financially at the time, so Meese decided to take a chance on Lugo despite his criminal past. That's how Danny ended up as the manager. But this begs one question. How does one go from scamming and running a gym to kidnapping, extortion, and murder? Well,
you see, when you don't give a fuck to the point where you already just, lying and scheming your way through life, you really just willing to see how far you can get away with taking it. You know what I mean? You really just want to see what can I do? What can I do that they ain't gonna care about? How far can I go?
this
You know
whole
what I'm saying?
sequence of events was kicked
Depending
off
on who
when
you
Lugo
are.
started personally training this guy, Jorge Delgado. The two of them immediately hit it off and became best friends. During their training sessions, Delgado would go on and on about this guy, Mark Schiller, who you might remember from the intro of this video. Remember they kidnapped him?
Right.
Schiller was almost like a father figure to Jorge. He found him when he was a broke loser and took him under his wing.
Why'd they
Mark gave
kidnap
him
him,
a job
though?
at his accounting firm, but eventually the two of them and had no reason not to. Believe me when I say Jorge would give him a reason, and that reason was Danny Lugo. These two were more inseparable than Siamese twins.
Right, you cannot trust that smile, bro. You can't trust a nigga that show too much gum when he smiles. That's just that's a fact of life. If shout out LA Knight, that's a fact of life. Yeah, man, you can't trust a nigga that smile at you with a bunch of gum in his smile. That's a no-go. That's a no-go, no sir. Back away from me, please. I'm good.
Which was a real pain in the ass for Mark Schiller. You see, he never liked Lugo. From the very start, he had him pegged as a dangerous con man. This put a huge strain on Mark's relationship with Delgado, and to make matters worse, Lugo's personality was rubbing off on Jorge. The guy was turning into a real jerk. He was soft-spoken, and I never saw him mad or frustrated. In a short period of time, Jorge had transformed into a person I did not know. Mark couldn't take it anymore. The final straw was when Delgado demanded that Lugo be made a partner in their business. Schiller understandably crashed out. He said he would rather be strapped into a chair and beat for a month straight than ever work with Danny Lugo.
See, now you saying crazy shit. You saying crazy shit about crazy niggas. You can't do that. They will take that back, put it up your ass.
Kind of paraphrasing there. It was at that moment that Mark Schiller decided to cut all personal and financial ties with his former protege. This was terrible news for Delgado because the guy was kind of incompetent, and the only reason he even reached some level of success was because of Schiller's business savvy. Without him, he was cooked. Oh, and to make matters worse,
this nigga
his
just a
wife was
coattail.
pregnant.
Oh, man.
One man's despair is another's
He a
opportunity.
coattail nigga.
After the falling out, Danny Lugo started getting into Delgado's head. He used his silver tongue to convince Jorge that Mark Schiller was an evil man who had been taking advantage of him and stealing from him for years. And it was time for payback.
He's an
That's
evil
when Lugo
man.
came up with a brilliant idea. Why don't we just take Schiller's money and put it into our bank accounts? But
So rob that nigga. Okay.
how would they do that?
All right.
Simple. KTS. Kidnap, torture, sign. They would kidnap Schiller, torture him into submission, and finally force him to sign his assets over. Jorge was reluctant to do that to his former mentor. I mean, yeah, the guy fucked him over, but this was a bit extreme. But as we'll come to find out, Danny had cult leader levels of charisma. So eventually Delgado got on board. The next member of our gang didn't need much persuading at all. Adrian Doorball was a poor kid from Trinidad who came to Miami to escape the crippling poverty of his childhood. He grew up an orphan and was desperate for a father figure. Fortunately for him, the father he found was Daddy Lugo. Lugo found Doorball when he was a skinny, broke 19-year-old kid. He gave him a job and started plying him full of steroids, transforming Doorball into a big, dumb, roid-addicted henchman who was completely loyal to Lugo. He had all his stat points in strength and none in intellect. The guy was basically a golem. Lugo approached Doorball and gave him the whole spiel about this evil rich man who stole money from
Nigga,
Delgado. And
Doorball
blah,
was a
blah,
doorknob.
blah. Adrian was in right away.
That's who he
shared
was.
Danny's
Okay,
contempt for
that's
rich
who the
people.
Rock is.
Plus, he would do anything Lugo asked, even kill. All right, so we got the brains and we got the muscle, but we're still missing a crucial piece of the puzzle. Schiller couldn't just sign over his assets. They needed to go through a notary. That's where the final member of the crew comes in. John Carl Meese. Apart from being Sun Gym's owner, he was also a certified public accountant, meaning he could notarize any business transaction and make it look legit, even when signed under duress. Now, normally Meese wouldn't get himself tangled up in these illegal shenanigans, but the guy was desperate for a cash injection. The guy had made a lot of money running his own accounting firm, but that was just a way for him to fund his real passion, bodybuilding. He loved watching sweaty, greased-up men flex. And that's why he opened up Sun Gym in the
Nothing wrong with that, by the way.
He envisioned it kind of like a reverse Planet Fitness where only the most serious bodybuilders would hang out. But there was one problem.
What?
The place was hemorrhaging money, just like my joint bank account I shared with my ex-wife. Like I mentioned, the place had a bit of a seedy reputation, so most normal people opted to go elsewhere. Despite it being a massive financial liability, Meese couldn't bear to close Sun Gym down. So when Lugo came in offering him $200K to notarize a few documents, he was sold. Now keep in mind there were more people involved, about a dozen total, but for the sake of brevity, we'll focus on these 4 guys. Okay, so now that we got the whole gang together,
but that
they
first
needed
nigga
to
look
figure out
fucking
how
nuts.
they were actually going to kidnap Schiller. Danny Lugo, as always, came up with a 200 IQ play. Doorball, Lugo, and 2 other goons would dress up like ninjas and go to Schiller's house on Halloween. Pretending to be trick-or-treaters, the 6-foot-tall bodybuilders would ring the doorbell and kidnap Schiller when he answered.
It's a crazy plan.
Everyone agreed. The plan was brilliant. The next day, the gang went to a spy shop and bought tasers, night vision goggles, walkie-talkies, and all the other...
Alright, so boom. So nobody at the checkout just questioned why these 4 big-ass niggas is buying tasers, night vision, walkie-talkie. Sound like these niggas trying to plan a heist. And it sound like somebody needs to get in there and fucking stop them. Hello? Please? Anybody? Anybody, if you're around, please stop these niggas. Do your job. Well, that ain't your job. But I mean, common sense would tell you, but common sense ain't common, you know?
Special black ops mission like this. Next, they rented a minivan so they could stake out Schiller's place without attracting too much attention. A week later on Halloween, it was time to put the plan in action. But the gang was forced to abort when Danny got drunk at the strip club and decided he was having too much fun to leave.
Alright.
Honestly, probably for the best. That plan was pretty dumb. Almost as dumb as not using a VPN.
Alright.
Luckily, I'm smart. And that's why
Me too. That's why I got YouTube Premium.
This scheme didn't quite pan out. No problem. Lugo had a plan B.
He always had a
plan B. The gang realized that Schiller was a creature of habit. He always got the paper at the same time every morning before driving to the
slot skis. I've never had slot skis. If y'all had slot skis in your life, let me know, man. Tell me something. Tell me what's up in the comments. I've never had it. So I'm still gonna go ahead and give my reaction. Slot skis? Yeah. What the fuck? Slot skis? Okay. That's a decision. I'd even took Quiznos.
Slotsky's deli franchise that he owned. So a week after Halloween, in the early morning hours, the gang was hiding in the bushes in front of his house. Lugo insisted on rocking the ninja outfits again along with the black face paint. Seriously? Blackface? Kidnapping and extortion, I understand, but I draw the line at racism. As soon as Schiller came out to get the
See, that's why that nigga name is Dontavius, bro. Really inside of him is a black man. It's really a black man in there, man. And yeah, he's really one of us. Can he say it? No, he cannot say it. Of course not.
Paper, he would be grabbed and thrown into the van. But their plot was thwarted again when a early morning jogger spawned in and saw them. There were, and I'm not joking, 6 more failed attempts after this, each one more stupid than the last.
Hey, these niggas starting to sound like the CIA.
Getting Schiller was proving to be way more difficult than anyone anticipated. The gang's morale was in the toilet. But Danny Lugo didn't give up hope. He called a meeting at Solid Gold, their favorite strip club, and gave the boys a pep talk.
Are we really gonna let this rich fuck?
Alright, so, you know, we really gotta figure out what exactly we gotta do about this guy's money, man. We really gotta get it. You know we gotta get it, man. Like, bro, y'all talking over music, bro. Y'all trying to talk over music. I'm really trying to understand what exactly the plan is at this current moment. We done tried 6 times and failed every time. Like, what we doing?
Get away? If we pull this off, we'd have way more than enough money to party with any girl in here.
The speech was a resounding success. This guy was like Winston Churchill if he was addicted to steroids instead of alcohol. With a renewed sense of
Nigga said, look at all these hoes. We could have any of them if we got his money. And they said, yes, absolutely. You're right, Danny.
purpose,
Like, what the
gang cooked
fuck?
up another scheme. This time, things would be different. November 15th.
Look at all these hoes.
Lugo and the
Look
boys
at all
were
this
waiting
ass.
outside the Schlotzsky's.
We could have it.
Here was the plan.
It
Schiller
could be
was
ours.
parked in the back alley behind the building. Lugo was in his car blocking one side of the alley. When Mark got in his car, Lugo would radio Doorball, who was raiding around the corner. He would pull up the van and block the other exit. Schiller would be a
Trust me.
sitting duck. At
Right.
around 9 a.m., Mark finally emerged. Lugo radioed Doorball as planned.
Target acquired. Pull up.
No answer.
I said pull up now!
Schiller had no idea that it was him blocking his path, so he started honking at him.
Come on, man, he's gonna get away!
Schiller, frustrated, put his car in reverse and backed out of the alley. A few seconds later, Doorball finally responded.
This fucking thing won't start.
Oh
This
my
time, Danny
God.
Lugo was pissed.
No
He
way.
called the rest of the gang a bunch of incompetent fuck-ups and said he was out. If they wanted to get Schiller, they would be on their own. This really upset Doorball, who would do anything to impress Lugo.
Oh, this
What better way
crybaby
to
ass
impress
nigga.
him than to finally get Mark Schiller. So Doorball cooked up a plan of his own. No fancy spy equipment or ninja getup necessary. Doorball decided to switch up the crew a little bit, so he benched one of the henchmen and grabbed another one from the gym. So he
Okay.
took the 2 guys and went back to Schlotzsky's and waited.
Why all these niggas want this nigga dead over some bread though? Like, just some random dude at the gym working out on his own path. Just that quickly, just said, nah, fuck all this working out shit. What you talking about? You said bread? You said there's some bread to be made? Sure, let's go ahead and do it. Like, what? Come on, bro. That's so fucking crazy to me.
This
You
time,
just going about
no matter
your
what
you going about your regular ass life doing your regular ass thing. And all of a sudden you ready to kill a nigga. How the fuck that happened? How that happen, bro? Yeah, cut that down. How that happen, bro? How all of a sudden you just ready to kill a nigga?
happened, he wasn't leaving empty-handed. 4:15 p.m. Once again, Schiller exited Schlotzsky's through the back and got into his car. The crew didn't waste any time. Doorball and another goon bum rushed Schiller and grabbed him from behind. They thought Schiller was going to be an easy...
This is also the bad thing about, I'm sorry I keep pausing. This is also the bad thing about having a routine sometimes, man. People that want to get at you, brother, you always know what you're going to do. They always know what you're going to do.
target. After all, these guys were massive bodybuilders and he was some middle-aged Jewish guy. But as we'll come to find out, Mark Schiller is a tough bastard. He wasn't going to go out without a fight.
Okay.
He held on to the steering wheel tighter than I hold on to hope that my dad will return home one day. The bodybuilders struggled with him for several minutes. And to make things even more chaotic, Schiller was screaming the whole time. Help me! Help!
Oh.
His screams were cut short by a sudden jolt of electricity running through his body.
Fuck.
He had just been tased. But not even
Damn.
120,000
Why does
volts
Monk
could make this
Why does Monk have a recreation of this shit? What the fuck?
guy let go of that steering wheel. So they hit him again. This time, the pain was so excruciating, he finally let go. Doorball then dragged him back to the van. Now, I just gotta say, this plan should not have worked. They grabbed this guy in broad daylight from a busy shopping center while he was screaming his ass off. But it worked. Doorball drove.
Everybody
while
inside
the two
was
thugs
going to
beat
work.
The absolute crap out of Schiller, tasing, punching.
Again, that nigga Monk is inside the
Wait,
damn
Why was that censored? I just said kicking.
kicking.
The fuck? Wait, fuck isn't censored? They
Kicked me repeatedly in the ribs, punched me in the face and body, all while laughing loudly.
The beating continued for well over half an
They
hour.
laughed
until
while
the van
whooping this
finally
nigga
reached the
ass.
destination, an empty warehouse
Can you imagine that shit? Niggas having fun beating your ass. Niggas ain't even serious. Niggas ain't even serious, bro. Oh my goodness. Niggas ain't even serious, bro. That's fucked up.
of nowhere. Unfortunately for Mark
That's
Schiller,
fucked up.
the pain he had experienced up to this point, that was only the beginning of. Meanwhile,
30
Danny Lugo was at the
days.
strip club getting a lap dance, and all of a sudden he felt something in his pants.
30
It was his
days?
cell phone. Adrian Doorbell was calling. The eagle has
Doorbell.
landed. I have a present for you, he said. Lugo sat there for a second.
Still.
Eagle has landed. What the heck does... Oh. When Lugo realized what the present was, he was so excited, he didn't even finish his lap dance and rushed to the warehouse.
Damn.
When he arrived, his gift was waiting for him wrapped in duct tape and handcuffed to a chair. Lugo and the rest of the crew exchanged high fives, and then they left. They went back to the
They
strip club to
left?
celebrate. These guys spent a
What the
ridiculous
fuck?
amount of time in the strip club. Or maybe I'm just gay, I don't know. Schiller was left alone for several hours, and he spent most of that time trying to figure out who was doing this to him and why. And it wouldn't be long until he got the answer to that second question. When Lugo returned
Why?
after 7 hours, he demanded
right,
that Schiller
'cause
sign
they're
over
gonna
all
ask
his
questions.
assets and possessions,
What are they gonna-
including his house,
Yeah.
businesses, and most importantly,
Damn.
his offshore bank account. When he refused, the gang spent the next few hours the absolute dog shit out of him. And this wasn't just business, by the way. These psychos got pleasure out of Schiller's misery.
Quote,
Yeah, you
"He
said
was
they were
zapped
laughing.
with a taser and pistol whipped. When Schiller asked for a cigarette, he was burned on his hands and knuckles. His captors just laughed. They even burned him with his own lighter, searing his arms and burning the hair on his chest.
Damn.
The thugs found that funny too.
To add insult to injury, they wouldn't even let him use the bathroom, forcing him to
Oh,
relieve
man.
himself in his pants. After the gang
Alright, so Monk just recreated the episode. That's my conclusion.
had their fun with Schiller,
That's my
things
conclusion.
got serious.
Shit.
More serious.
What the
Lugo
fuck?
told Schiller that if he didn't cooperate, they would kidnap his wife and take turns raping her in front of him. Okay,
Whoa!
wow, I'm starting to think these guys aren't so chill. Schiller had no
Oh yeah, I'm so stupid. I didn't expect it to be my fault. That's on me. That's on me. That's actually on me, bro. That's dead ass on me. I was not thinking that nigga was in the movie. I didn't see this movie, but I completely forgot that he said that there was a movie based on this nigga. Oh man. Well, not this nigga, but you know, this whole thing. Completely forgot he said that. God. I might be a dumbass. I might be a dumbass. Oh my God. I might be one of y'all. Oh no.
choice.
My fault.
He told them that he would give them whatever they wanted on the condition that his family be allowed to go back to Colombia, which Lugo agreed to. So with a gun pointed at his head, Schiller called his wife and told her to get on the first flight to Colombia and not to go to the police under any circumstances. Once his family was safely out of the country, Schiller was handed a giant stack of documents to autograph. Now, keep in mind, his eyes were covered in duct tape this whole time, so he had no idea what he was signing.
Dumbass.
Even though Schiller was blind,
Oh,
he
no,
wasn't
no, no.
stupid.
I mean,
It took
you
him a
can't-
while, but he finally figured out who was behind all this. The only person on the planet, other than his wife, who knew about the offshore
Can't see
accounts was Jorge Delgado.
see the
And
people.
if Delgado was
Ah.
involved, that means that Danny Lugo was probably the mastermind. Mark couldn't believe it. After everything he did for this schmuck, he goes and stabs him in the back. But that information was pretty useless for now. I mean, the dude was strapped in
Real
a chair
bitch-ass
covered in
nigga
duct
right
tape
here.
in his own feces. He wasn't exactly in a position to act. So Schiller did the only thing he could, signed away everything he worked his entire life for. The papers were then taken to John Meese, who put his stamp on the documents, certifying that all these transactions were legitimate.
So my question is, for all these people to be involved, what is this, like 5, 6 people involved? How? Maybe 4, 5, 6 people involved? How? Not definitely 5. How much money does this man have for y'all to be able to split all this between y'all and this whole plan be worth it? That's my question. Cause that does not, it doesn't make this isn't worth it. This just going through all this shit ain't fucking worth it, bro. I'm telling you, like, why? For what? For what? I'm gonna beat the dog shit out of nigga. At the end of this shit, I might have to kill somebody. I might have to kill this dude, bro. And that's not a part of the plan that I thought to, because the whole time I'm hoping that I don't have to do that. So when I get to that part of the plan, yeah, I'm fried. I'm fried. I'm fried. Yeah. I'm cooked. I'm cooked.
When it was all said and done, the Sun Gym gang made out with about $4.5 million. But it wasn't time to celebrate yet, because
$4.5 million. Echo. Divide 4.5 million by 5.
4.5 million divided by 5 is $900,000.
$900,000 for each person involved. Is that worth it? Y'all let me know in the comments. Is that worth it? $900,000 to do all this shit that they doing to this guy? Y'all let me know. Cause I don't see a world where that is worth it. It's not even $1 million. It's 100 grand shy. And I need more. I need way more than that, bro. I need, like, we gotta be going after 100 millionaires, you know what I mean?
because what the hell were they gonna do with Schiller? They couldn't just let the guy go.
See
or
what
he
I'm
might run into
saying?
the
What are we gonna do when we get to that part of the plan? What is the plan? No one's thinking of that. That is the problem that I have. And there's no solution but killing the nigga. And I don't want to do that. But I'ma have to do that. You see, you see the dilemma? That's why this type of plan is so stupid. Unless you're ready to really kill the nigga and you got a plan after the fact. Yeah,
cops.
don't do this
It was
shit.
clear. That there was
Actually,
only
wait, don't do this shit at all. What the fuck am I talking about? Don't do this shit at all. I'm just thinking in the movie sense. I'm thinking in the movie sense.
one solution. They had to whack Mark. Now, the easy thing to do would chop up his body and dump him in the Everglades, but Schiller had a $2 million life insurance policy, which now
fuck is that?
belonged to the gang. If they were gonna get that money, they had to make it look like an accident. It's time for another one of Danny Lugo's iconic schemes. They would make it seem like Schiller was on a drunken bender that ended in a fatal car crash. To make it seem
Okay.
believable, Danny forced Schiller to call up his friends and business associates and tell them
Would
that
that
he was
work?
leaving his family to run away with some big booty Latina, and that was the reason he liquidated all his cash. On the third day, Schiller was placed in the driver's seat of his car. Lugo, who was sitting in the passenger seat, reached his foot over and floored the gas,
What the
aiming
hell?
the car at a concrete pole. He then jumped out right before the car made impact.
Okay. Now what happened?
Surprisingly, Schiller survived.
Of course.
Unconscious.
All
but
this
still
shit was in
alive.
the movie?
But that's okay, because Lugo anticipated this. The gang doused the car in gas and set it on fire.
Damn.
No way anybody's coming out of that alive. So, imagine their surprise when Schiller just casually walked out of the burning vehicle. Unbelievable. This guy was like fucking Rasputin. At this point, the boys were getting frustrated, so one of them ran Schiller over with the van.
Oh, man.
And backed it over him for good measure.
God
The gang
damn.
then sped off before any witnesses could show up and congratulated each other on a job.
He's still
well done.
not
It
dead,
was
bro.
time to celebrate a solid goal.
You dumbass niggas. He's still not dead,
But there was just one problem. 2 days later, Lugo and the boys were kicking their feet up at Mark Schiller's mansion. Danny was flipping through the local paper looking for Schiller's obituary. There was nothing. So he called the local morgue. Also nothing. Was it possible that Mark survived? No. The guy had enough booze in his body to take down a kangaroo. He had been sleep deprived, starved, beaten for a month, and to top it all off, hit with a car twice. There was no way anybody could have survived all that. But just to make sure, Lugo called the nearest hospital. No fucking way. On December 15th, 1994, Mark Schiller woke up at Jackson Memorial Hospital. He had broken several bones, 90% of his body was covered in bandages, and the other 10 had tubes coming out of it. His
But I tell you what, but the human body is resilient than a bitch, bruh. It's crazy what the human body can survive. Y'all just don't know. Y'all just don't know, bruh. I done heard so many crazy stories and people survive it, bro. I don't know if it's willpower or I don't know what it is, but it's something. It's got to be something mental. It has to be something mental, bro. Because people be surviving some crazy shit, going through some crazy pains to survive some crazy shit, bro. It should be wild.
His bladder and spleen had both ruptured, and he had to undergo emergency surgery to save his life. Doctors told him he would likely be permanently paralyzed, but he was alive. Schiller tried to explain that he'd been kidnapped by a group of bodybuilders who stole his house before getting him drunk and forcing him to crash his car. But obviously, out of context, that sounds ridiculous,
Right.
so the hospital staff wrote him off as another alcoholic schizo on a bender. It was Miami, after all. This was probably like not even the third craziest story they heard that day. Schiller figured that if the hospital staff didn't believe him, the police probably wouldn't either. So he reached out to a private investigator instead. But not just any private investigator, the best damn PI east of the Mississippi, Ed Dubois. We'll come back to him in a minute. When Danny Lugo found out that Schiller was alive, he was livid. He called the rest of the gang together and told them they had to finish the mother sucker off.
I can't fucking believe this. Can you fucking believe this? We hit him with a van twice. A car. We hit him with a car. He's alive. He's fucking alive. He's fucking alive. Nigga just explodes.
Once and for all. Doorball volunteered to strangle Schiller with a pillow while Lugo staged a fistfight in the hallway as a distraction. Yet another foolproof plan. So the two of them, along with this guy Carl Weeks, went to the hospital to execute Schiller.
Bro, what the hell, bro?
So the two of them, along with this guy Carl Weeks, went to the...
It's just crazy, bro. What the fuck? And Falcon. What the fuck you doing here? I know his name Anthony Mackie. Shut the fuck up.
Hospital to execute Schiller, but the geniuses got lost in the maze of hallways.
Oh my god.
By the time they found Schiller's room,
idiots.
he was already gone. Bro was on a plane halfway to New York. Ed Dubois gave
I'm glad they made them look like real idiots too. This dumbass nigga on the ground looking down at a straight hallway. Like he gonna see some shit. Dumbass nigga.
Maze of hallways. By the time
nigga looking at a straight hallway like he gonna see something.
Found Schiller's room, he was already gone. Bro was on a plane halfway to New York. Ed Dubois gave Mark Schiller the best
it's a
advice
curve. It's a curve in the floor. It's a curve in the floor. That's why we keep getting lost. Like, what the fuck?
Get the fuck out of Miami as soon as possible. Right after hanging up the phone with Dubois, Schiller got airlifted to New York, where he would lay low until he recovered. Meanwhile, Ed Dubois was on the case. Schiller faxed Ed over the documents that he allegedly signed. Dubois saw that they were notarized by one John Carl Meese. Wouldn't you know it, Ed just happened to know Meese. In fact, the two of them had known each other for almost 30 years.
What?
Ed was starting to doubt Schiller's story now. The John Meese he knew was an upstanding citizen, a pillar of the community.
No.
So he decided to confront his pal anyways. When Ed walked into his office,
What's good,
he
bro?
greeted him with a shit-eating smile on his face. But that grin would disappear when Dubois said,
I'm here representing a client named Mark Schiller. Ever heard of him?
I don't recognize that name.
Meese said, as a bead of sweat rolled down his face. Ed pulled out the documents showing Meese's stamp next to Schiller's signature, but Meese brushed it off and insisted he
How the
didn't
hell you
remember.
gonna brush off
Ed,
your own? How the fuck you gonna brush off your own signature, nigga? You the one that fucking stamped the shit. You can't just brush that shit. You finna get on Discord? Where? Hold on. Let me open my shit. Just call me. Alright. But that's crazy, bro.
I'm a notary. I notarize things all day long. And, you know, all these Latins look alike to me.
Meese also downplayed his
He
relationship
actually
with
said
Lugo
that.
and Delgado, but offered to set up
Damn. Let me finish this video too. I don't know what you got to do, but let me finish this video. I'm trying to put this on the channel.
a meeting with the four of them to straighten things out. Ed agreed. Dubois walked into the building skeptical, but walked out 100% convinced that Mark Schiller was telling the truth. Now, he just needed to prove it. When word got around to the rest of the gang that a PI was poking around, they started freaking out. A few days later, Ed showed up to the meeting, but no sign of Lugo. It was just him and Delgado. To Ed's surprise, Delgado made Schiller an offer. The gang would pay him back $1.2 million. In exchange, Schiller would have to sign a contract promising to never speak to anyone about the whole kidnapping thing.
Bump it up to 2. Nah. Bump it up to 1.5. Bump it up to 1.6, 1.7, something like that, bro.
Especially not the police. Ed was stunned at how stupid these guys were. Schiller and Dubois obviously knew that this contract was more worthless than my DeVry degree.
Of course.
They thought they might at least get some of the money back before going to the police. So they agreed to the terms. But then Danny Lugo, genius businessman, tried to pull a fast one. He changed the $sign on the contract to an Italian lira symbol, meaning he would only have to pay Schiller about $1,200 in real money.
Oh, you son
This
of a bitch.
tomfoolery would go on for weeks. Ed would...
Is that still a thing? What is that symbol? We need to know what that symbol looks like. Matter of fact, y'all heard him. Y'all look it up.
meet with
I
the
ain't got
gang,
time.
They would come to an
But
agreement.
yeah,
and Lugo
let me
would find
finish
some
this
way to
video
weasel out
real
of it.
quick.
It was obvious that these guys were never going to return a dime of their stolen booty. They were just buying time until they could find Schiller and finish him off for good. Ed was extremely frustrated. Not only was he unable to get any of the money back for his client, but he was still missing solid evidence that would put these freaks away for good. He needed a smoking gun. And it wouldn't be long before he found not just a smoking gun, but a smoking, I want to say, cannon? He found a lot of evidence, is what I'm trying to say. And in the last place you'd expect, the trash. Ed was in Delgado's office waiting for him to show up so they could resume their bullshit negotiations, when the overflowing garbage can in the corner of the room caught his eye. For some reason, Ed was drawn to the wastebasket, and what he found inside was dozens of documents linking the Sun Gym members to Schiller. At that moment, Ed said, quote, "Thank God for this kind of stupidity. We might never get
Why
any
would
of
you
these
not
bad guys off
shred
the
important
streets."
documents
He might not
like
have gotten
those?
any of Schiller's money, but Ed finally got what he needed to go to the police. This was going to be a slam dunk case. Except
Absolutely not.
it wasn't. The police thought Schiller was completely full of shit. He was questioned for hours, pouring out all the
I hate the fucking police. Like, why else do y'all exist if it's not to believe the shit that people are telling y'all and investigate it? I don't have any other fucking reason to come over here and tell you this shit, nigga. I ain't getting no money being in here bothering y'all. Y'all get paid by way of me to pay my taxes any fucking way. Why the fuck put it up to 2? What you mean? What, 2 o'clock? You talking about 2 o'clock? But yeah, bro, what the fuck you mean I'm in here telling you, I got the shit beat out of me, niggas trying to rob me and things of that nature, and you over here, and nigga, sit your bitch ass down. Shut the fuck up and answer these questions. What the fuck are you talking about? Like, I don't get it. Your whole job is to investigate shit, and you don't want to investigate shit. I don't understand that one.
pain and trauma he endured, but the cops weren't convinced. 3 times during the interview, Schiller was interrupted and warned that it was a crime to file a false complaint. And that
Why
the
would
police
I
didn't
do
have time
that?
to pursue every nutty story that comes by. At one point, Schiller straight up asked them, "Do you think I'm making this up?" One of the officers looked him straight in the eye and said, "Yeah, We do. This was exactly what Mark Schiller feared. Dubois was absolutely dumbfounded. The cops were
Shit's
even more
crazy,
incompetent
bro.
than the criminals. He warned investigators that if they didn't do something soon, the Sun Gym gang would find another victim. If only they listened. So Mark went back to Colombia with his tail between his legs. Meanwhile, the Sun Gym boys were living it up with his money. They all bought expensive houses, sports cars, and jewelry. And you know these schmucks were dropping thousands at Solid Gold almost every night. Problem
Facts.
is,
Oh man, them women love when they walk through the door. Ooh. Them women love when them dumbass boys walk through the door. Just throwing mad money. For no reason at all. I bet you all, the majority of their money was gone within like 6 months, bruh. 6 months. I'll give it 6 months. Half a year. Half a year, bro.
they were going too hard. In a few short months, they had already
some
blown
cake.
through most of Schiller's money. If they were going to keep up their lifestyle, they needed a cash injection, and they needed one soon.
See?
So the gang started prowling for its next victim. That's when Adrian Doorbal found the golden goose. Adrian was spending the night with Beatrice, one of the strippers from Solid Gold. He came across a photo in her apartment that caught his eye. She was standing in front of a gorgeous canary yellow Lamborghini.
What you gonna do with
The second
that?
he laid eyes on that Lambo, he knew. It had to be his. The car belonged to Beatrice's ex, Frank Griga. Griga was a big shot businessman from Hungary.
Oh, God,
He
put
made
it on the
millions
tube,
off
bruh.
1-900 numbers. That's phone sex hotlines for those who don't know. Aside from the
Shit.
Lambo, he also owned
That's
an
too low.
oceanfront mansion and a yacht. This guy was even more loaded than Schiller. That night, Adrian went to Lugo and told him that they had acquired their next target. The plot to get Griga's fortune was pretty much the same as the Schiller job. KTS. Okay. Except instead of straight up kidnapping, they would lure him into a trap, knock him out, and then transport his unconscious body to the warehouse. Lugo had obtained a buttload of horse tranquilizers. to
How
help
the
him with
fuck?
task. The two of them spent
Where
the
the hell
next
did
few
he
days
get that
gathering
from?
intel on Griga. They found out that he was trying to branch out from the 1-900 game and invest in other businesses, which was the perfect opportunity.
That's crazy.
Lugo called Griga pretending to be a representative for a phone company that was expanding its
I'm an
business into
international
India and was
businessman.
looking for investors. And to his credit, he made a very convincing pitch. Griga was interested.
Damn.
Danny invited Frank and his girlfriend Christina to meet him at a local steakhouse to discuss business. But when they got there, it was closed. All part of Danny's master plan.
nigga's
You
a-
see, the steakhouse was conveniently located right across the street from Adrian Doorbal's house. So
what?
they all went there instead.
Okay.
This was going much smoother than the Schiller job so far. But from this point on,
See, right there, that's where the street sense, common sense comes into play. Because you just gotta think, this shit closed, and one of these niggas' houses just so happens to be across the street.
it was anything but smooth sailing. Up until now, this story has been kind of a dark comedy.
You gotta
But
think,
from here
bro.
on out, it's a straight up horror film. Lugo, Doorbal, Christina, and Frank were all in the townhouse having a good time. Little drinks, little music, you know. At some point, Lugo decides to show off Doorbal's new sound system. So he cranks the volume all the way up.
From the screen to the ring to the pen to the
That was
That's
a signal.
crazy.
Doorbal then asked Griga if the two of them could go upstairs to discuss business since it was quieter. Lugo remained in the living room with Christina. But pretty soon, not
Oh,
even the
shit.
loud-ass speakers could mask the commotion coming from the second floor. It's unknown how it started, but Doorbal and Griga got into a full-on brawl. They were throwing each other into walls, breaking furniture. These guys were really going at it. Christina ran upstairs to see what was going on, but by the time she got up there, the commotion had ended. She looked on in horror as she saw her man lying on the floor with a pool of blood under his head. Doorbal, in a fit of rage, hit Griga over the head with a blunt object. Christina was screaming and started making her way downstairs towards the front door, but before she could escape, Lugo tackled her and injected her with the horse tranquilizer. Okay, so things got a little messier than expected, but hey, at least Griga was still alive.
Oh,
Lugo's biggest mistake was letting Doorbal take the reins on this job. The golden goose was now cooked. But not all was lost. They still had Christina, so at least they could use her to get inside Griga's mansion and take whatever valuables were in there. All they needed was the security code. But that wasn't going to be that easy to get. Christina barely spoke any English, and she was shot with enough horse tranquilizer to kill a small donkey.
Tell us the fucking numbers. What are the numbers?
Lugo screamed at her. Took a while, but eventually Christina rattled off some numbers. Doorball stayed behind with her while Lugo went to Griga's house to try the numbers. He punched them in, but no dice. After exhausting every combination he could think of, Lugo called Doorball so he could get the right code. Adrian went to check on her and replied, "Oh man, the bitch is cold. What a mess." But there was no time to dwell on mistakes.
Damn.
They had 2 bodies to dispose of. This is when Jorge Delgado came back into the
Stupid
fold.
ass
He helped the
niggas.
gang transport the bodies to his warehouse, the same one that Schiller was tortured in. Doorball volunteered to cut up the bodies himself. In fact, the psycho was excited.
What the hell is this nigga's problem, bro? This nigga has real life issues. Somebody need to sock this nigga in the jaw and just let him lay there. Maybe even give that nigga a punt kick, Randy Orton shit.
To do it. I guess he
Like,
got a
it's
taste
crazy,
for blood.
bro.
He went to the local Home Depot to purchase a gas-powered chainsaw, but the 2 geniuses couldn't figure out how to work it. So
Nah, that's
after about an
fucking
hour,
nuts.
they gave up and decided to go old school with a hatchet. From here, it gets extremely graphic and disturbing, and there's no way I can talk about it on YouTube. If you want the full gory details, go check out my Patreon. There's also a lot of other stuff I cut out that is still in the Patreon version. So I'm gonna skip past all the chopping and the butchering and the barbecuing. Several disturbing hours later. Man, these guys were really some sick fucks. After all that nasty business was out of the way, the body parts were placed in large barrels and dumped in a swamp up in the Everglades.
God damn,
Next,
bro.
they had to get rid of Griga's Lambo. The thing attracted too much attention. It was ironic. Just days before, these men were willing to
But it would attract more attention the fact that it's not there anymore. What?
kill for this car. Now, they were dumping it like some piece of
That's so
trash.
stupid.
By the time the bodies were disposed of, Frank and Christina had been missing for just under a day, and police were already receiving several calls reporting them missing. You see, despite Frank's unsavory line of work, he was by all accounts a great guy. Everybody loved him and Christina. Just like with Schiller, the cops brushed off most people's concerns. They were dealing with a mountain of cases and didn't have time to look into some playboy smut peddler who was probably out partying too late or something. It was only after a police officer came across Griga's abandoned Lambo that they started taking the disappearance seriously. After following up with Griga's friends, the police found out that he was last seen with 2 bodybuilders from Sun Gym. It was at that moment that Miami PD realized they fucked up. By this point,
big
it had
time.
been 6 weeks since Mark Schiller got laughed out of the police station. Now, the tables had turned. Not only did they believe him, they needed him. Investigators needed warrants to raid the gang members' homes, but they couldn't get those without probable cause.
Nigga need
Mark
witnesses
Schiller's
now.
testimony would give them that. Schiller,
Weak-ass
feeling
police.
vindicated, immediately hopped on a flight back to Miami from Colombia. Once Schiller recounted the events again, it didn't take long for the police department to raid the homes of Lugo, Doorball, and Delgado. And the search was fruitful. As we've come to expect, these guys are complete schlemiels, and they did a worse job at covering their tracks than my Uncle Ruben did when he slept with my ex-girlfriend.
All
First of
right.
all, Griga's DNA was all over Doorball's townhouse, not to mention his jewelry, driver's license, and bank documents. In less than 3 hours, police turned up a mountain of evidence linking all the Sun Gym gang members
Dumbass
to the
niggas.
Griga murders and Schiller's kidnapping. It was Jover. Doorball and Delgado were immediately taken to jail along with several other accomplices. Meanwhile, John Meese was in the middle of judging a bodybuilding competition in downtown Miami, but that didn't stop the police. He was carried away in cuffs. All that was left was Danny Lugo. Except, the mother sucker was nowhere to be found. Turns out he was all the way in the Bahamas with his Romanian girlfriend Sabina. Funny thing is, Lugo had no idea the cops were investigating him. He was only there trying to pull off another one of his schemes. Since the Griga job was so badly botched, Lugo figured he could get some of Frank's money if he sued him in Bahamian court. Since Griga wasn't alive to contest the lawsuit, Danny would win by default.
Wow.
Pretty sure that's not how it works,
I
but
don't
whatever.
think.
Now,
Yeah.
it was time for a new plan. Lugo decided
Dumbass
that he
nigga.
would flee to Romania.
Niggas
The
is really
perfect
stupid.
destination for a degenerate criminal trying to escape legal repercussions in another country. Bro was ahead of his time. But there was one issue. The putz didn't have his passport. Apparently, back then you could travel to the Bahamas with just a U.S. birth certificate. But he needed a passport to go literally anywhere else. So Danny sent Sabina back to Miami to retrieve his passport. And then the two of them would escape to Romania together. Easy. She got back to the apartment, no problem.
Why y'all didn't go
She tried
from
to get
the
inside,
apartment
her key didn't
to...
work. Now, just to
Never
give you a
mind.
short rundown on Sabina, she was
I guess you get caught at the
not very
airport in
bright,
Miami.
even by Romanian standards. So
One's
when her
smart,
key didn't work,
stupid.
this didn't arouse any suspicion, and she just went to the front office to complain.
She a stupid
But
bitch.
instead of getting a key for her lock, she got locked up, and they threw away the key.
Oh my God, dumbass lady.
Better in my head. She was arrested. The cops had been staking the place out for days waiting for Lugo to show up.
Oh man.
But this was the next best thing. Sabina was taken into questioning, and the cops were flabbergasted at how dumb this woman was. She was fully convinced that Daniel Lugo was in the CIA.
What?
And the reason they needed to flee the country was because he got compromised.
What?
So she refused to give him up, at least at first. But
To the
after 20
police
hours
of the USA?
interrogations, she finally broke and told the cops that Lugo was hiding out at a resort in the Bahamas. He was captured and brought back to Miami within a day. By August 1995, all of the Sun Gym gang members had been arrested.
8
Delgado,
niggas.
Lugo, and Doorbal were all facing the death penalty, and they immediately started turning on each other. Delgado was the first domino to fall. When faced with the chair, his loyalty for Lugo completely disappeared. He went on to become the state's star witness, and his testimony was crucial in bringing down his old pals. For his cooperation, Delgado would end up getting 15 years in prison. John Meese also had the
wow.
opportunity to take a plea deal. in
15
exchange
for all of
9
what
years
they
in the
did,
can.
bro, it's
He
crazy.
decided to take his chance at trial, a decision that he would regret for the rest of his life. The judge sentenced him to 56 years.
Damn.
As for Lugo and Doorbal, their
God,
fates were
come on, bro. Cold shit. Oh, man. 15? 56, nigga. You old fuck. God damn.
sealed when Mark Schiller took the stand as a witness. He told the jury all about the sick stuff these men made him do, about how they
Sheesh.
beat him, didn't let him use the toilet, and forced him to
Alright,
eat
yeah,
Arby's.
show me that
And how
again.
did Mark Schiller get repaid for bravely reliving his trauma in front of the courtroom? Well, he was arrested. I'm not
What?
kidding. The second he walked out of the courtroom, he was put in cuffs and later sentenced to 2 years in prison. Yeah, it turns out the guy had been running some kind of Medicare fraud scam, allegedly.
No.
This dude could not catch a freaking break. And on top of that,
God
Michael Bay made him
damn.
look like a complete asshole in Pain and Gain. I don't think Schiller deserved all that, but Lugo and Doorbal got exactly what they deserved. The death penalty. In their pursuit of money and material
Shit.
gain, Daniel Lugo and Adrian Doorbal lost everything, including their freedom. It's like the Bible says, what good is it to gain the whole world if
Man,
you lose your
bro.
soul? But hey, on the bright side, they've had plenty of time to lift weights in prison.
Jesus Christ, bro. Hey, this is a great video. Holy shit. Fuck all them niggas on my granny grave. Fuck all them niggas. If y'all like the video, subscribe if y'all fuck with the vibe. Original video in the description. Go fuck with his video too, man. And I'm gonna catch y'all in the next one, bruh. Peace.